High in the mountains, nestled among peaks and clouds, lay the town of Avum. Avum was beautiful. Avum was ancient. Avum was crumbling. Houses perched on slopes trembled with each passing storm. Streets, cobbled and worn, cracked under the weight of time. The people, resilient and proud, lived with the constant threat of earthquakes swallowing their world whole. Old Elias, the town clockmaker, watched his town with a heavy heart. He loved Avum, its every stone and crevice. He had spent his life mending its clocks, its gears a reflection of the town's own intricate workings. But mending clocks was different from mending fate. Or was it? An idea, audacious and terrifying, began to take root in Elias's mind. He envisioned a clock, not to measure time, but to command it. A clock that could stop time itself. Could he, Elias, dare to tamper with the very fabric of existence to save his beloved Avum? Elias retreated to his workshop, a sanctuary of gears, springs, and pendulums. He worked tirelessly, fueled by a desperate hope and a growing obsession. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. His workshop, usually alive with the soothing tick-tock of time, grew eerily silent as he crafted each component with painstaking precision. The clock, when finally finished, was unlike any other. Its face was a mosaic of the night sky, stars frozen in their celestial dance. At its heart, a single ruby pulsed with an otherworldly light. This was no mere timekeeper. This was a paradox, a rebellion against the natural order. With a mix of fear and determination, Elias set the clock's single hand in motion. There was a silence, absolute and profound, as if the world itself had drawn in a breath. Then, the ruby at the clock's heart flared, bathing Avum in an ethereal red glow. And then, silence. The town of Avum froze. The earthquake that had threatened to shatter Avum was frozen mid-rumble. Houses teetering on the precipice were held in place, their destruction suspended indefinitely. The townsfolk, caught in mid-stride, conversation and laughter were frozen, their expressions tableau of life interrupted. Elias stepped out into the stillness. It was both beautiful and unsettling. The wind no longer whistled through the mountain passes. The distant laughter of children playing had been silenced. He'd saved Avum, but at what cost? The town had become a breathtaking photograph, devoid of the very essence that gave it life. Days turned into weeks, but time in Avum was no longer a measure of change. Elias walked through the silent streets, the only being untouched by the stasis he had imposed. He saw the fear etched on the faces of his friends, frozen moments before they realized the terrifying truth of their situation. The weight of his decision pressed down on Elias. He had stolen Avum's future in a bid to preserve its past. The silence, once a comfort, became a deafening reminder of his hubris. He had to set things right, even if it meant facing the destruction he so desperately sought to avoid. With trembling hands, Elias returned to the clock that held Avum captive. He knew that restarting time wouldn't be without risk. The tremors, dormant but not gone, would resume. But he also knew that a life without change was no life at all. The ruby, pulsating faintly, seemed to throb with the heartbeat of the town it held captive. Elias made a final adjustment, a whisper of movement on the celestial clock face. The ruby flared one last time, brighter than before, and then a hush fell over the town. a hush that quickly transformed into the familiar symphony of life. The wind howled, birdsong filled the air, and the cobbled streets vibrated with the sound of Avum waking from its slumber